Good day everyone, this is Nemesis, and today I finally managed to finish the PvP balance check video that I wanted to do for a very long time now. This may very well be the most important video I've done so far, so I put some extra effort into carefully going through the recorded footage of over 100 ranked games, as well as all of the patch notes. Before we begin, I just want to say that I do not consider myself as a top tier player. I just came back from an 8 months break, so it would be absurd to even suggest such a thing. Now, in this video, I did my best to remove the skill variable from the equation and focus more on the cold hard facts. So when dealing with balance checks, you don't have to necessarily verify the entire system to see if it's balanced or not. As soon as you find a part of the system that is overperforming or underperforming, then you can safely say that the entire system is not balanced. So the topic of today is the Necromancer. And as you can see from the footage that is being displayed on screen, I'm not doing all that bad when it comes to 1v1s. Yet the Guild Wars 2 PvP system is not just about dueling and killing other players. It's actually more of a 5v5 capture and hold type scenario, which means that there are a few other very important things that we have to take into consideration. Mobility, for example. It dictates how fast can a player reinforce a valuable strategic location. Disengage is what allows a player to make a tactical withdrawal, which alongside high mobility can play a crucial role in achieving victory. Stomping and delaying being stomped is also something that should be taken into consideration. Failing to finish off a player and at the same time buying more time before being fully killed will more often than not turn the course of a battle. And last, but in my opinion the most important of all, the ability to survive focus fire and being stun locked. Now, when I say mobility, I am of course referring to the ability to traverse the terrain at a faster rate than you could normally just by using swiftness. In this category we have skills with a teleport mechanic such as blink or portal, skills that utilize the shadow step mechanic, skills with a leap mechanic such as charges, bounces, rushes and dashes, or slides and rocket jumps. And there are also skills that fall into the category of transformation, but they also provide a severe increase to mobility. A good example of that would be the elementalist offhand dagger skill Ride the Lightning. Unlike most classes that have multiple such skills, the Necromancer has only one such mobility skill in the form of a teleport via flash one. A skill with a 40-second cooldown that requires 2 actions to use or in advance preparation. Therefore, it can be countered by simply killing the worm, and it's also a clear tell on the location where you will teleport. Now, I'm going to jump straight to discussing about the ability to survive focus fire and being stun locked because it will make more sense that way. So, how do you survive being focus fire by multiple players? Just like this. Well, you can use various skills that have an invulnerability mechanic, such as misform, distortion, renewed focus. Warriors endure pain for physical attacks and Berserker stands for condition damage. Or you can also rely on the evade mechanic, which was designed as more of an active countermeasure since you have to time it just right in order to prevent incoming damage. The same goes for block. The last thing we can use to escape being focus fire is to not be there at all. And by that I mean invisible, literally. In addition to all of these, there is an extra countermeasure especially designed so that the players will not get stun locked. Because even though each class has access to 1 or 2 stun breakers, the game does not have a diminishing return mechanic, which means that when facing multiple opponents, each one of them capable of having 2 or 3 CCs at one time, naturally you can get stun locked. So, ArenaNet basically transformed the common diminishing return passive mechanic into something more dynamic, and it's called stability. Now, here is the most important point that I'm going to make in this video. The genius design behind the Guild Wars 2 combat system is that all of the above mechanics are balanced for 1v1 encounters. I have yet to meet a player that I could not bring down eventually, but at the same time are also balanced for 1 versus multiple. They all scale up by default. I'm going to give you an example so you guys understand exactly what I'm saying. If an engineer uses Elixir S against me in a fight, he will evade not only my attacks, but also all the attacks of 1,000 players during that time. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, now, which is the one class that appears to be almost entirely missing from all of these categories, both when it comes to mobility and survive, focus, fire, and stun lock? Well, it's the Necromancer, of course. And what does the Necromancer have instead of all of the above mentioned mechanics? It has Death Shroud, or as it's commonly referred to as the second life bar. Now, first of all, it's not the second life bar. As you can plainly see, my health bar is well over 18,000 and my Death Shroud bar is only 13,300. Second of all, because of the rate at which it is decaying, in 26 seconds my entire life force pool is gone, which is equivalent to taking 511 damage every second, which is just like having 5 bleeding stacks on me at all times. And third, gathering the life force in the first place is not exactly easy, especially for condition builds, since most of the life force generation skills cap at 4-5%, and there aren't many of them to begin with. In most situations, the time required to gather up the life force is a lot higher than time you will actually spend in Death Shroud. Everyone that has ever played a Necromancer in PvP knows this fact. And unlike a warrior who has like 2 skills depending on his resource pool, the Necromancer has 5 skills locked to his resource pool and his survivability. It's like they make this genius PvP combat system, but they forgot to invite the Necromancer. People see the Necromancer being able to hold his own in 1v1 situations, but they don't understand that the class functions on entirely different sets of principles than the other classes. Death Shroud mechanic was also balanced for 1v1 situations, but unlike all the other mechanics, it does not scale up when fighting versus multiple. If the Necromancer Death Shroud would have been designed to suffer the punishment of 5 or more players, thinking about World v World, no one would ever be able to go toe-to-toe with the Necromancer. You would never bring a Necromancer down on your own. Ever. So this is the fundamental core design flaw that the Necromancer suffers from. So it's like expectations versus reality. Look, I am dominating. I am crushing these puny knobs. I am OP. I am best player in the world. When in reality... Now, in my 101 rank game marathon, I of course played around with different builds, different variations of the same build, until I found one that I was most successful with, but it still didn't make that much of a difference in most scenarios. Plague form sometimes can help you survive, but if they really want to get you, they will get you even through plague form. And if you're going to escape, you would have escaped even without plague form because they were just probably bad players to begin with. Besides, if plague form or leech form will ever become too much of a threat, they will just mow you and be done with. The average game time is about 8 minutes and we have a 3-minute long cooldown to a skill that can be countered. You can't actually unmist form an elementalist or undistort a mesmer or unevade a thief, and these are the skills that function versus all opponents for their duration. 1,000,000 players could be hitting you while in mist form and 1,000,000 players will still do no damage. Now, if we are going to also bring mobility into the equation, in all of these scenarios, if we were to have a player using any other class skilled enough to properly calculate the fight, they would have the tools necessary to make a tactical withdrawal. As a Necromancer, it doesn't really matter. The second they decide to focus their attention on you, you can't run because they have more mobility than you can't hide, and you'll just get stun locked and bounced around all the way to an early grave. And there is absolutely nothing you can do about it. There are no buttons to press or skills to use. Might as well just take my hands off the keyboard and go, oh well, I'll just respawn eventually. Every class in the game is feared or at least known for something. Warrior is known for his CCs, invulnerabilities and moderate damage and mobility. Elementalists are known for their ability to very quickly recover their health pool even during a fight, as well as their insane mobility. Thieves are well known for their insane burst and unmatched mobility. Rangers are known to be able to do high damage both in condition and power builds, and they can also bunker up quite well. I know many of you have heard at least once, don't go mid, they have an engineer on point. And Guardians are known for blocks, heals and invulnerabilities. What is the Necromancer known for? Can he survive focus fire, like an attrition class should? Can he disengage at any moment during the fight, like this? And quickly reinforce a team fight or a valuable strategic location somewhere else, like this? Can a Necromancer stunlock a target like this? Can he revive a downed player like this? What is the Necromancer known for? Damage? Oh no, terror build is so strong. It's not actually any higher than what any other class can put out. The Necromancer is not feared, it's actually expected to be a free kill. Do you guys know how many fights I won because my opponents constantly underestimated me? They could have disengaged many times when they saw the fight was not going in their favor, or at least try to drag me into a team fight where I would have been definitely focus fire. But no, they kept coming back to fight a Necromancer that was clearly played by someone with superior skill, and they kept thinking they could still kill me even badly wounded. Some players, however, realized they cannot take me in an honorable 1v1, so they use their superior mobility and disengage to set up a scenario in which I will be at a severe disadvantage. And I have no counter to this tactic. So, you are a strong Necromancer. Well, I better be off then. But do not worry, this one will bring friends next time, yes? And I'm just standing there going, no, come back, you don't understand. I have to kill you. I can't keep up with all this mobility. The Necromancer's lack of mobility and disengage puts the class at a severe tactical disadvantage. And I know some people would say, well, you just have to position better. That's exactly like me giving you a bicycle for a motorcycle race and say, oh, you just have to pedal faster. I left stomping and delaying being stomped for last. There isn't really much to discuss here. Like I said, it's all about finishing a player before he has a chance to rally. And the player that is down has to do everything in his power to buy himself enough time to be rallied. You can maximize your chances to stomp a target by using the survive focus fire mechanics like stealth or stability or misform, and the mobility mechanic like teleport for moving corpses. Delaying the stomp, however, relies more on teleporting your corpse or stealth, since the CCs are not always that effective because everyone has access to plenty of stability. The last thing I want to talk about is more of a Necromancer only issue. The Necromancer damage has been calibrated to work with the 578 to 963 damage that the Flesh Golem provides. And also the Golem's charge has been included in the maximum number of CCs that the Necromancer has. That's how the class was balanced in the first place, obviously. So, what is this? You don't even find this type of shit in World of Warcraft private servers. How is this still an issue after 2 years into the game? Ranger pets can fear, stun, pounce, as well as heal their masters very quickly. I can't even get my golem to attack. No, I mean, I literally can't because they forgot to add buttons for the... they forgot to add controls for the thing. But it doesn't matter. I can still use my golem to charge. Now, maybe I got this all wrong. Maybe it's just me. So I saved up all the encounters I had with the other Necromancers in my 101 rank game marathon. Now the time has come for me to go through all of the patch notes to see exactly what has been done to remedy these issues that have been plaguing the Necromancer class since the beginning. For the sake of effectiveness, I will not bring into discussion irrelevant information, so nothing related to healing builds, bunker builds, minion builds, or any other build that doesn't work anyway, because there have been buffs to skills that still no one uses to this day. I will mainly focus on damage and anything related to the Death Shroud mechanic. So, October 1st, 2012, Epidemic skill no longer has infinite range. 26 March 2013, Epidemic now requires line of sight of the main target to spread the condition to nearby enemies. 30 April 2013, Epidemic skill now unblockable. So far everything seems reasonable, right? Right. 22 October 2012, Corrupt Boon skill now properly removes edges rather than being blocked by it. 30 April 2013, Corrupt Boon skill no longer causes odd interaction with edges, now unblockable. 25th June 2013, Corrupt Boon reduced the maximum amount of boons converted to 5. This is one of the biggest nerfs the Necromancer has ever gotten. Before this nerf, Corrupt Boon used exactly at the right time, you could still counter it with evades and blinds and loss, would change the outcome of a fight. Now, not so much, but they didn't stop there. On September 9, 2014, Corrupt Boon increased casting time from less than 0.25 seconds to 0.5 seconds. They nerfed it again to make it even more easy to counter than before. It's as if people can't face roll counter most of the Necromancer high cooldown skills already. 14 December 2012, terror damage is increased by 50% if the target has any conditions on them. Not bad, but it was still not enough. At the time, the Necromancer was still in a very bad spot and the majority of the community continued to complain about the Necromancer's survivability. So of course, ArenaNet acknowledged this fact, and on the 25th of June 2013, we got Dumbfire. Players can inflict burning to opponents for 4 seconds on critical hit. This effect can only occur once every 10 seconds. This was a major buff to the Necromancer's damage that no one asked for. But still, the majority of people were just happy that ArenaNet finally decided to do something. Here is where it gets interesting though. ArenaNet acknowledged that the Necromancer was in such a bad spot that it needed such a major buff, and on the 23rd July 2013, terror damage reduced by 17%. 10 December 2013, Mark of Blood removed 1 stack of bleed when used in PvP. Enfeeble decreased the weakness duration to 2 seconds, decreased the bleeding to 1 stack and 6 seconds, remove the cooldown. Now, let's put that into math, shall we? Dumbfire damage ever since it got nerfed on April 15, 2014 is 2619. 1 stack of bleeding removed from Mark of Blood means minus 1618 damage. 3236 damage if you count Mark of Evasion as well. Weakening Shroud. It used to activate Enfeebling Blood back in the day before they changed into Enfeeble. See? Like that. Now, do you guys want to see a trick? Ta-da! Boom! Another minus 2199 damage. And of course the nerf to weakness didn't have much either. Now if we are going to draw the line, just to give you guys an idea, since the game launch, condition damage got buffed by 2943 via Dumbfire and Terror, and got nerfed by 5435. And I know some people would say, but what about the plus 6795 from Torment? Well, my friend, do you even know how many Marks of Blood and Enfeebles I could cast in the 40 seconds, which is the cooldown of Tainted Shackles? Besides the fact that Signet of Spite also got hit with the nerf pad. So let's not make this worse than it already is, just because I don't want to go into statistics and probabilities and more math. It's too much, I did too much already. The bottom line is, Necromancer's condition damage is literally lower than what it was at launch. And that is a fact. Now, power type damage. As you can see, since the game launched, the skill Ghastly Claws kept receiving damage buffs, and even now with an overall of 30% damage increase, still not something to brag about. As for the rest of the power damage skills, on the 25th of June 2013 we got Deathly Perception, which was one of the biggest buffs the Necromancer has ever gotten. The first time when power builds were even remotely considered viable. But ever since then, nothing else got buffed. Life Blast never got buffed, Dagger 1 never got buffed, Deathly Claws never got buffed. If anything, Lich Form damage got nerfed on September 9, 2014, when it got its duration reduced from 30 seconds to 20 seconds. And that's pretty much it. The thing is, just like I shown earlier in the video, it was never damage that the Necromancer was missing. So let's see what kind of modifications have been done to our Death Shroud mechanic over the years. First, they made Spectral Lock unable to grant Life Force in Death Shroud on 1st of October 2012, only to revert it back to original on 25th of June 2013, when they also made Spectral Armor work in Death Shroud. Then on July 23rd, 2013, they nerfed Death Shroud again in such a way that people couldn't use it as an Aegis effect anymore, only to have the effect return as a Death Magic Grandmaster trait a year later. Shortly after this, on the 13th September 2014, they made running out of Life Force trigger the Death Shroud cooldown. So now even if you manage to acquire Life Force during a fight to make a comeback, you will have to do it without relying on the defense or the 5 skills from your Death Shroud for the next 10 seconds. So it doesn't look good for the Death Shroud mechanic so far. It seems that Renan had made it weaker. But there's another aspect that we have to take into consideration. Life Force generation. So they moved Life Force generation from Bloody Power to Spectral Grasp, added additional Life Force generation to Spectral Wall, increased Gluttony effectiveness from 5% to 10%, and so on. And I know what you're thinking. That's it? Doesn't seem that much. Well, it's actually significant. Now there's a catch. Even the smallest things can have a major impact on the outcome of a fight in 1v1. There is still nothing that scales up when fighting versus multiple. The only skills that used to scale up when fighting versus multiple actually got modified to have a higher effectiveness in 1v1s and a lower effectiveness when fighting versus multiple, with the introduction of the 1 second internal cooldown. The only thing that has been done to improve the Necromancer's attrition when fighting versus multiple has been recently. It was a long overdue modification. Prior to this, a simple boon remover would open the way for both Lich Form and Plague Form to be CC'd into the ground. This evens the odds a little bit, but we must remember that these skills have a 3-minute cooldown, and if they are ever to become too much of a problem, the counter is already in place in form of MOA. So in conclusion, if we are to draw the line and analyze all the data, condition damage is lower now than it was when the game launched, power type damage has been increased in 2 accounts, ghostly claws, and deathly perception. Death Shroud mechanic overall is weaker than it was at start, and Life Force generation has been buffed, but it has been balanced around 1v1 scenarios. Nothing has been done to resolve or compensate for the Necromancer's lack of mobility, disengage, or the ability to survive focus fire. That is why Necromancers are always a priority target, especially if they recognize me. Players drop everything and chase me to the other end of the map if they have to. Look, it's the Nemesis, get him! I'm like, what the fuck, man? I'm not a piñata, I drop no loot, get off me! That is why the Necromancer has by far the least amount of viable builds at his disposal. That is why in my 101 ranked games marathon, out of 900 plus players, only 58 of them were Necromancers, and only 2 of those ever survived when they were engaged by me, with or without help from my team members. That is why I will say that, in my opinion, the Necromancer is not exactly viable in PvP. Can you still be successful? Sure. If you spend all your time in PvP, you will eventually have superior reaction times, superior map awareness, more perfectly executed strategies, and you have my respects for that. But then again, why would you? Why would you invest all that time and effort into mastering a high-risk, low-reward class? The point of this video, of this in-depth analysis, was to offer clarification so that people stop complaining about the wrong things and start asking for the right things. Only then will the game ever get properly balanced. Also, what people need to understand, besides the fact that just by looking at the conclusions of all the patch notes, the Necromancer can possibly be OP. Just because I crush people in 1v1s doesn't mean I'm winning the game. As you can see in my 101 ranked games, I had the opportunity to duel people only 35 times. People disengaged me 64 times, and I got ganked with no chance of escaping 154 times. There were also dozens of games where I totally crushed people, died only like once, and yet I still felt that I am dragging my team down. Standard scenario. I am on my way to an important strategic location and I get intercepted along the way. But I managed to survive, since my attacker decided to disengage when he saw he was no match. So I continue on my way to the important strategic location, only to see that the person I was in combat with just a few moments ago has already reached my destination. And because I literally couldn't get there any faster, the team fight was lost because my team was outnumbered. And now I have 3 enemy players staring at me. And there was absolutely nothing I could have done differently. So you see, in a capture and hold PvP type game, duels are not the most important thing. So what if I crush people in 1v1s in a game that rewards team play and mobility? It's all about the team. And an easily interceptable, no disengage, low mobility, slow to reinforce, first to go down in a team fight, no scaling defense and no additional support OP duelist just doesn't bring enough to a team to be worth its spot. Now I heard a lot of people saying that ArenaNet doesn't know what they're doing and ArenaNet this and ArenaNet that, but it's not exactly that simple. You see, if I work for a company and my boss comes in and says, balance this, you have 2 months, and in 2 months I am unable to balance this, I would be replaced by someone more qualified. The fact that the game is not yet balanced is not at all related to someone's incompetence. It could be that balance is not a top priority. The directive is to focus on things like quality of life improvements and skins, or coming up with entirely new skills for an expansion, because they don't have an unlimited budget, and at the end of the day they still have to turn a profit for a few people in suits, and I can totally understand that. Or, and this reminds me of what Blizzard's spokesperson once said, it took us 7 years to fully balance StarCraft 1. Yeah, right, as if I'm ever going to believe you are that incompetent. takes 4 years and a lower budget to launch a fucking satellite. No, my friends. Why would you invest so much effort into achieving balance when balance means equilibrium, which is static? And static gets people bored eventually. And when people get bored, they leave. And that's bad. But if you buff one meta, then over nerf it, while you buff another meta, today is power DPS meta, tomorrow is condition DPS meta, always one meta on top of the other, keeps people involved, constantly having to adapt to a new challenge. It's exciting. And people don't get bored. And people don't leave. I was going to end this video on a much darker note, but a few days ago I saw that they made Foot in the Grave allow the Necromancer to break stuns while attending Death Shroud. They nerfed the Necromancer's condition builds into the ground, but with the recent major buff, at least they gave us an alternative in a form of a power build that was previously unavailable. It's a very interesting playstyle, to say the least. So I'm really excited to share it with you guys, but I still want to test it out for at least another week or so. I also made the new hybrid build. I'm just waiting on some gear before I can begin testing for it, so I can add the finishing touches. And on that note, I tried to rush for a legendary because I intended to sell it to make enough gold for all my upcoming builds, and I'm kind of stuck. So if anyone wants to contribute a little bit, it would really speed this along, since I'm tied to the daily cooldowns. So if I'm able to buy the materials, it's much more easier. Since I no longer have time to farm everything, it's difficult. And I was also working on my very own Necromancer remake before I quit the game. I think I will hold off on that project until expansion hits. So with that being said, I have finally finished the video that I wanted to do even before I quit the game 8 months ago. I have never worked so much on a video before. I didn't know what I was getting myself into yet again. Hopefully this is the last time I will have to do something like this alone. I have some major upcoming plans which will hopefully allow me to return full-time to YouTube. More information about that in the next 20 days when I will finish setting up all the details for it. But until next time, enjoy your gaming and have a great day.